Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CEO and Market Expert Interviews. I'm your host, Lucy, and some of you know me as Triangle Investor from X or former Twitter. Today, I'm joined by my returning guest, Mr. Amir Adnani, Uranium Energy Corp CEO. Amir, thank you for coming. Welcome back.
Good to be back inside the triangle.
Thank you very much. I got a lot of questions from my followers about this uranium equities pullback, and not just equities. We are seeing uranium spot pullback. What's your take? Why are the stocks down in the last 10 days? Is it just a profit taking or something else, since there is no major fundamental reason for that?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. There's no fundamental difference in supply demand and no change in, let's say, news flow that would suggest there's anything fundamental going on. It's, I think, very normal, of course, to see profit taking and pullbacks and consolidation in what is otherwise a secular bull market that is developed here for uranium. So it feels, honestly, as much as none of us like to see red for 6 consecutive days, it is quite normal, and we have to keep in mind how much of a move the equities have made and the spot price has made over the last year, particularly in the last 3 months, I would even say.
Yeah.
So it feels normal, healthy, and I think for a lot of individuals or investors, especially larger institutional investors who felt that maybe they had missed this move up, which happened so fast, it's presenting a great entry point and a good buying opportunity.
Yeah, agreed on that, definitely. Amir, what are you seeing and hearing about the next activities on U.S. ban on Russian uranium?
Well, I don't know when this interview is going to get released, but hopefully before Monday's House Foreign Affairs Committee meeting. So, in light of this latest developments in Russia, it does look like President Biden and the White House do want to hit Russia hard with a whole suite of sanctions. And so we could see this potentially inject life into the Russian uranium ban bill, which had unanimous support in the House, only was missing 1 vote in the Senate from Senator Ted Cruz, ironically, because he's from Texas and actually supports the issue, but wasn't supporting that day because of an unrelated issue related to another bill that he wanted support on. So just Washington, D.C. political stuff. But I think you have basically kind of a 3-pronged situation going into the coming weeks where we might see the Russian uranium ban bill come into play. We might see a whole suite of new sanctions. We might even see potential sanctions directly on Rosatom. So that's Russia's nuclear energy company. And so it could definitely complicate things. And I think by now, if you're a Western utility and you're still heavily contracting and buying from Rosatom and Russia, it's got to be embarrassing at this point because of just the ongoing issues politically with Russia and the oppression that's going on over there. And you just figure at what point are we going to see a greater shift towards Western supplies, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I had Scott Melby in my show in early January, and he gave a great overview of that topic as well. And he was just preparing to go to Washington. And among other things, like you mentioned, Senator Cruz, he talked about him blocking uranium bill and his next steps. Amir, have you had a chance to talk with Senator Cruz after he blocked the uranium bill?
Our industry association, through the Uranium Producers of America, have made multiple outreaches and visits to not just to Senator Cruz's office, but to be on the Hill in Washington this past month and a half or 2 months since the beginning of the new year. I can tell you the conversations have gone very well, very constructive. There's no ideological disagreement or anything like that. We must remember that nuclear energy is enjoying bipartisan support right now in Washington. Not too many things that Democrats and Republicans agree on, but nuclear is definitely one of them. And that has not changed even with the election cycle in the US starting to ramp up this year. So overall, we've also had great engagement from the small business community that is part of our ecosystem in Texas, for example, our contractors, our suppliers. other businesses that rely and are counting on the coming growth in the domestic uranium mining industry, they've also reached out to Senator Cruz's office and to other key constituents and members of the Senate and the House. So I can tell you, I think there's really good engagement. There's good reaction on the other side. And look, politics and political kind of events sometimes can take a bit of time, but it does feel very positive that we're going to get some results here with respect to the right policy action that's very supportive of growth in the domestic uranium and nuclear fuel industries. And that's a very strategic objective that has bipartisan support.
Yeah, definitely. Amir, biggest Western supplier of enriched uranium to American power plants, says it has enough capacity to replace Russian imports.
Yeah.
Do you believe that is the case?
I have no reason to not believe it. And I do believe if they see commitment from buyers or contracts from either the government or from end users, that gives them the signal to go ahead and bring that increased capacity forward, I have no reason to believe that that couldn't be done.
Okay, fair enough. As we know, you are 100% unhedged, which was definitely a right decision when we see constant rise in price of uranium. My question is, will you stick to this approach or maybe change the strategy and lock some of your future pounds with the agreements?
I think any business strategy could change and should be reviewed and should be potentially evolved with time and with market dynamics. It shouldn't be forgotten at all that when we insist on 100% unhedged strategy and have all these years was due to the fact that we saw a supply deficit emerging in the market and that demand was going to far outstrip supply. And that was going to create the foundation for a sustained bull market in uranium. So with that type of, let's say, outlook and forecast, it just made sense to us as a company based on our capital requirements, based on our projects, based on all the things that's unique to us. And it may not be the same for other companies. It made sense to have that 100% unhedged position. And it's worked extremely well for us, and especially when you see where realized pricing for companies that have pursued very aggressive contracting, what that differential looks like.
Definitely.
So for the foreseeable future, I think this is the right strategy. However, as the market changes and as supply-demand fundamentals in the long term change and evolve, it makes sense that our strategy may evolve in the future as well. But for now, this makes complete sense.
Yeah, okay. You have announced in mid-January the restart of uranium production on Christensen Ranch in situ recovery operations in Wyoming. Can you talk more about expected volumes for the first year of production? How much will this restart cost and how will you fund it?
Look, between all of our licensed facilities in the US, including those that are built like Paraquay and Hobson and Christensen Ranch and Palangana, and those facilities where we have licensed capacity and not built yet, like Reno Creek, we have a total licensed capacity for 8.5 million pounds of annual production using all in situ recovery. We also control the largest resource space of permitted in situ recovery projects in the United States. Initial volumes of production will be announced in the coming months, and they'll be announced closer to when we have satisfactorily completed the additional hiring and training that we need to do. Year one of production, the first couple of years of production are always full of, again, importance placed on safety, importance placed on that ramp up and transitioning from standby to production. We have the huge benefit that the facilities that were restarting production from Christensen Ranch and Paraquay were some of the last mines to put into care and maintenance in this previous cycle. 2018 is when they were placed into care and maintenance. So they're still fairly recent production that we're restarting with all the key employees and team members that we have today that were part of those operations in 2018. And with no significant construction and procurement in front of us. And of course, everything is licensed that we're going to be producing from. So this takes an enormous amount of risk out of the equation. As we work through that initial ramp-up period, we'll be able to provide more information on the initial production volumes. But when you look at us and you look at any uranium company that has a production angle, it's what you can achieve in the next 5 to 6 years, right? It's what you can achieve from now to the end of the decade, because that accounts for more time to have the ability to ramp up and also more time to see these elevated uranium prices. Let's not forget, uranium prices only hit $100 a pound late last year. Prior to that, for most of last year, we were trading at $50 a pound. And the trigger for a lot of companies to see restart of production, including us, was $60 per pound. So we're in the very early innings of this uranium bull market that is going to allow for companies to develop and evolve their 5-year production strategy, 6-year production strategy, and then go have the ability and the runway to execute it. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing.
Okay, you mentioned hiring people. Do you have any problems with skilled personnel of hiring new people when you are restarting your operations? Do you have that problem, or will you have that problem on your other activities, operations, which you will restart in the future? How is the situation with skilled labor? My question is.
Yeah, there's no doubt that skilled labor for the industry is definitely one of the paramount issues. You've heard Cameco talk about it.
Yeah.
When you talk about an industry that has been dormant for 11, 12 years, naturally the human resource and the human capital base has depleted. And so it really comes down to exactly what jurisdiction you are, exactly what area you're in. In Wyoming, we benefit from the fact that many of the skills and skill set that we need has correlations to oil and gas industry, has correlations to other extractive industries that are present in the state. And we're starting with operations that are in situ recovery. So solution mining operations are always going to have less human resource requirements than open pit or underground mining. So when you kind of get into the nuances, again, depending on the type of mining, depending on where you are exactly, you can address the skilled labor issue perhaps either better or there'll be greater challenges. That's one reason we're starting in Wyoming. It's in situ recovery, it's past producing. There are many people that we can attract back that used to work here before, or a skill set from other extractive industries that are within the state and close to the facility. So that's an important advantage that we think restarting and going first with Wyoming is really given our company. But collectively as an industry, this is going to be a challenge in terms of finding not the hundreds, but the thousands and perhaps tens of thousands of people that are going to be needed between now and the next decade as we continue to search for new supplies and as we continue to have to increase the supply side of uranium, which is in a complete deficit, and hundreds of millions of pounds of uranium have to be produced to meet the current demand, notwithstanding demand is also growing. And so that's why I also say that we're in such early innings of this bull market, and we have at least a decade runway here of needing to kind of address the challenges that are in the market with supply and address the human resource issues.
Yeah. Besides Christensen Ranch, you have 3 more ISR projects in Wyoming. You mentioned already Reno Creek. You have Moore Ranch and Ludeman. What is the status and plans for those projects?
These are all part of our permitted assets and projects in Wyoming. The plan in the coming years is to basically develop production from every one of our fully permitted satellite projects, to have this hub and spoke model that we have in Texas and Wyoming, where we have central processing plants at Paraquay in Wyoming and Hobson in Texas. And we have 7 fully permitted mines between Wyoming and Texas that will be developed into production as part of our 5 to 6 year strategy. And the goal is to really be the leading US uranium producer. As I mentioned, we have 8.5 million pounds of licensed capacity. We want to get as much production as we can from the fully permitted project. But then we have a significant exploration portfolio that we're going to be exploring, and we're going to look to increase our resources on that front as well. But when we look at ISR, when we see how Kazakhstan as a country has leveraged the ISR technology to become the largest uranium producer in the world. Clearly, there are inherent advantages with ISR, and we want to leverage that in the US. And Texas and Wyoming in particular, has produced more uranium using ISR than any other jurisdiction after Kazakhstan in the Western world. So we think Wyoming is going to be really on the map and is going to be an important jurisdiction for low cost and low capital intensity form of ISR uranium, and we want to lead the way with that.
Can you talk more specifically on the timeline of Texas operations production? That project basically consists of that's 5 projects over there: Hobson Central Processing Plant, Burke Hollow, Goliath, Palangana, and the 5th is Salvo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the current status of, let's say, equipment over there, and how soon can you start production, Amir?
Well, while we haven't officially announced the production restart in Texas, we have stated that that announcement was coming soon. And so we very much intend to have restarted production and new production in South Texas. Probably, again, this is not official, but it probably would be a year after we restart Wyoming.
Okay.
And that would be primarily focused at the new Burke Hollow project that we've been developing since 2012. And that would be a satellite deposit to the Hobson processing plant. So again, more information to come on that. Okay. But it's very much going to be right behind Wyoming. And we're excited to kind of have the ability where we can develop something very big in Wyoming, but then have something also interesting and growing in Texas coming online, and have that 1-2 punch of Texas and Wyoming for US production.
Okay, besides ISR operation, you have some conventional mining assets in Arizona, I think. What is the plan there?
You know, it's a good question. We don't have active plans for that. It really represents the kind of optionality that UEC presents to higher uranium prices, having a total resource base, as you know, of about 328 million pounds. It's the largest diversified resource space of any company after Cameco in North America. Majority of the focus in our conversation is in Texas and Wyoming. That's about 100 million of our 328 million resources in all categories. Arizona, I think, will be interesting. We'll want to see if the uranium price, continues to march on, which I think today, sitting here, uranium prices have a pretty good shot of going to $200 to $300 a pound. And as they do, that additional optionality that we have in particularly the Anderson project in Arizona, which is a large 32 million pound resource, is a great kind of project to develop more activity around. But as of right now, the key focus is really on Texas and Wyoming.
You have similar direction with the New Mexico projects as well?
Yeah, we might look to even divest some of that. There's a lot of interest in the sector right now. You know, there's only so much we can focus on and advance with our team, and there's going to be bandwidth limitations. So perhaps while we focus primarily on Wyoming and Texas, keep flexibility and optionality in Arizona, maybe our holdings in New Mexico become divestiture opportunities, where we spin out to smaller companies that are looking for projects and want to focus on those projects and explore them. So that could be an effective way, and you see this in other industries and sectors with gold and copper, where if you have a large portfolio like we do, that could be a good model to kind of try to unlock value. And so we'll see. There's definitely a lot more interest from juniors in uranium today, right?
Yeah, sure. Is there any chance that you spin out or sell a Paraguay project?
It could be. Again, that kind of fits the same situation. I mean, look, we've been in the country of Paraguay for over a decade. We've been very fortunate to work with very good people there. The government's been very good to work with. It's ISR. We love ISR. It's got great technical fit for us. And so we're certainly interested to see how we can also see some action in Paraguay. And again, it becomes a bandwidth issue. And you talked about personnel and labor. And right now our focus factor is restarting production. That's really important to the company. But again, it's great that UEC has such a diversified portfolio. Most uranium companies have one or two deposits. We have a whole suite of, most companies don't even have one fully permitted asset. We have 7 fully permitted mines. And then you have Arizona, you have New Mexico, you have Paraguay. And I know we haven't even talked about Athabasca Basin yet. So
that's my next question.
Yeah, this is a very asset-rich company, obviously. It's highly diversified portfolio. That just means it gives us the flexibility for corporate development, right? We can advance projects ourselves, we can sell them, we can spin them out. It's nice to be in the driver's seat. And that's the situation that we're in, right?
Definitely. You mentioned that Athabasca, and I want to talk a little bit on the exploration assets you have. Do you plan to carry, you said you plan to carry some work this year. Can you tell me more on which projects, what kind of work will you do this year?
In Athabasca, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. The main focus has been up until now at the Roughrider project. That's the asset that we acquired from Rio Tinto. Roughrider, we've had 3 parallel tracks. We have been doing environmental baseline work since last May. We hired engineering firms to develop an initial economic study on the project, which will be out hopefully by June timeframe of this year. And we've been drilling the property, both for development drilling, so drilling metallurgical holes, for example, that help support future PFS studies, pre-feasibility. And we've also been doing resource growth type of work, where recently we had some excellent mineralization, a 6% hole over 3 meters on a 25-meter step out from where the deposit is. So what we're trying to demonstrate is that here's a world-class deposit that, as you know, historically, Cameco and Rio Tinto fought over.
Yeah.
And it's a almost 70 million pound deposit with grades ranging from 3.5 to 4.5%. We think it's going to be bigger, and that's what our drilling so far demonstrates that. We think it'll be permitted on an accelerated basis. That's why we've commenced that work. This was inside Rio Tinto's feasibility department when we acquired it, once Rio decided to exit the uranium business. And you never know, maybe Rio Tinto will not come back to the uranium business given what uranium prices have done.
Yeah.
But this is a very exciting deposit. And our production study that's coming out will shed more light on the type of production numbers and volumes that this deposit can handle. We're very excited about what we can show for that. And the other deposit that we're excited about that we've been working on, and we have more work coming on, is Christy Lake, which is just north of McArthur River. And it's the only exploration property not held by Cameco or Orano along that McArthur River Cigar Lake corridor. So you're talking about almost 20% of global production. And this is the property sitting between the 2 biggest mines on the planet. And so Christy Lake is just a phenomenal exploration project. You do have an initial 20 million pound resource estimate that is on the property, but we think that's just scratch at the surface on a property that big where it's situated. As you know, we hit the project with some drilling about a year ago.
Yeah.
We intercepted 68% uranium, if you recall.
Yes.
And that needs to be followed up on. That's going to be followed up on. So again, when you consider
this year, sorry, Amir, this year.
Yeah, we're planning to do this year. I mean, again, we're focused on Roughrider. We want to get to Christy Lake, but you just have these incredible opportunities where you have not only, again, the Wyoming production restart, Texas a year behind that, Roughrider that's being advanced with economic study coming out, but arguably the most exciting exploration property on the planet for uranium is our Christy Lake project, because I don't know of any other exploration project that sits between the 2 largest uranium mines on the planet. Yeah. And so that is also part of, again, that dynamic that UEC has, where it's not just about 1 or 2 projects, that we have very exciting production restart, very exciting development opportunities, but also very standout exploration projects with the right address and the right results that we've delivered so far. So all of that in one package. And of course, we haven't even talked about everything else in Athabasca Basin.
Yeah, definitely. And there is a lot of ground over there in your portfolio.
Well, yeah, I mean, and besides ground, if you recall, we had the 4 joint ventures, right? So we have the joint ventures, Cameco, on the Millennium Project, where they're the operator, and through our JCU ownership, we own roughly, I think 15% of that. We have the joint venture with
Forum
Orano.
Energy.
Well, we got Forum, we got Orano. We've got Orano. We have the Shea Creek deposit that we're a partner on, Kigabik. Denison, we're a partner there on the Wheeler River deposit. And so again, there's also this whole basket of joint ventures that we have as well, which is again another added driver of value, another added kind of bucket of value and production optionality.
Yeah, definitely. Just quick return on the Roughrider. Like you said, it's almost 70 million pounds over there. It's a big deposit, and you believe it could get even bigger. And we talked JVs and partnership a little bit before. Do you think that is joint venturing or partnership on the Roughrider on the as an option on the table for you, for your company?
We're not looking at that right now because there's really no need at this point, right? Right now, there's a shortage of quality projects that are legitimate production opportunities. And Roughrider is, you know, if you think about it, in the last decade, the only project in the Athabasca Basin that Cameco has attempted to buy is Roughrider. Cameco hasn't attempted to buy anything else in the Athabasca Basin.
Yeah.
So we have the only project in our possession that Cameco's ever attempted to buy, and they got outbid by Rio Tinto. You know, and Rio paid $640 million for it, another $100 million on mine development. And as you know, we acquired it for $140 million, but when uranium was at $40 a pound. So it was just a fantastic purchase, a great timing, great deposit, and it's we're in the driver's seat with it. And so I think at this point, our focus is keep advancing it, keep growing it, keep exploring it. All those things will only make the project more valuable. Luckily, UEC has the size and the financial wherewithal to be able to really advance this project. And so at this point, there's really no active interest to try to JV or sell a piece of Roughrider. It doesn't really make any sense for us to do that.
Okay. Amir, what about physical uranium portfolio you have? Do you plan any new activities with that?
Not really. Like we own close to 1 million pounds, and like our physical program today is about just over 2 million pounds of uranium. We have possession of 1 million pounds that's paid for, and it's an inventory, and it's all warehoused in the U.S. And we have over 1 million pounds that's been contracted to buy. Remember, we don't like to contract to sell. We like to contract to buy.
Yeah, I know.
at an average cost of $46. So with uranium prices around $95 or $100 a pound, we have contracts where we have the option, and we are going to be buying uranium from counterparties at $46 on average on 1.3 million. So if we turned around and just, let's say, sold that in today's market, we have an unrealized gain of $70 million just in our on deliveries that we haven't taken possession of. And that's on top of our $210 million of liquidity that's on the balance sheet. So not only do we not like hedging, and we don't have contracts, and we don't contract, and we don't believe in contracting, we like contracting when it's the other side, and we've contracted to buy uranium.
Okay, final question. How is the cooperation with Terra Power going?
Great. I mean, that's an MOU. You know, they looked at the uranium industry in the US, and they wanted to find basically the one company that they team up with. Terra Power is Bill Gates's company that's going to make history in the US and in the world in the next couple of years with building the first SMR system. It happens to be in Wyoming. They wanted to make sure they had a supply chain of suppliers that basically provided them uranium, nuclear fuel, enrichment services, et cetera. So they had earlier signed an agreement with Centrus to do enrichment cooperation, and they wanted to identify a company that would basically be their uranium supplier. So first of all, I think we were honored that they identified and selected UEC as the leading uranium company in the US as their supplier. I think there's a huge market for SMR demand for uranium that's not factored in current demand models at all. Not even 1 pound of demand is modeled. Every time you talk to someone about SMRs, the immediate reaction is, well, there's no SMRs currently operating.
Yeah.
and completely discounting the fact that there are billions of dollars being invested in SMRs. And in the next couple of years, we're going to start to see them come on, and we're going to go from 5 or 10 to hundreds because deployment timelines are faster. The way they're built and deployed is not the same as a large-scale reactor. And we want to be there. We think this is a whole new segment of demand for uranium. And as a company, we want to make sure we service and supply uranium to them. And I think the other emerging demand is the US government, which, again, we were privileged to supply uranium to the Department of Energy last year when they wanted to establish the strategic uranium reserve in the US, which is for US companies and US production only. So in the coming
do you see similar program repeating?
100%. 100%. I think the strategic uranium reserve in the US will be multiples larger than the initial 1 million pounds that they purchased. And it will be a long-term initiative. It will be at least a decade long. And it's going to be singularly focused on US production and US assets. And that's going to be, I think, one of the biggest reasons why I'm so bullish about our US business. And again, why we're restarting Wyoming production and then Texas. I love the Athabasca Basin. And of course, we have projects in Canada, but there's an extra level of love if you have American uranium, right? And there's an extra level of premium that goes to US production because, again, the US is consuming more uranium today than any other country. Yeah. SMR demand is going to be coming primarily in the US because that's where a lot of SMRs are going to be built. And US government establishing the strategic uranium reserve. So you have layers and layers of demand for US origin uranium. And I think that's going to be, the shiniest object in the uranium world is going to be a pound of uranium pulled out of US soil.
Yeah, definitely. Agreed on SMRs as well, 100%. Okay, thank you very much. That was Mr. Amir Adnani, Uranium Energy Corp CEO. Amir, thank you once again for coming, and let's catch up sometime soon again.
My pleasure. Thank you.